Verbal communication. Now you already know what a verbal communication is. This includes both oral and written communication. And directing is one of the functions of management. So if you go with the functions of management, now supervision is a Latin word called super. That means from the above, and vision means to see. Hindrance. There is nothing which is like not being transparent. So when you go with initiate actions, now I have already covered what exactly initiate actions is. That is, it helps in Hello everybody, a warm welcome to one and all. I'm Abhilash Chandra from the Department of Commerce and Management in Vidyashram First Grade College, the Temple of Excellence. Welcome to all the students here. Now I'll be dealing with a chapter called as the fourth chapter. It's everything about the directing and communication. And here I'll be going with the first one, that is what exactly is directing. Now directing, if we understand, I'll tell you, guiding people, that is what the directing is all about. And directing is one of the functions of management. So if you go with the functions of management, planning, organizing, staffing, directing and controlling, this directing is a very interesting chapter where a manager is a person who will direct all his employees. So what exactly they are supposed to do. It is a process as well as it is a technique. Now directing refers to a process or technique of instructing, guiding, inspiring, counseling, overseeing and leading people towards the accomplishment of organizational goals. Now here directing is always a continuous process, and here let me tell you students, directing is also what you are supposed to motivate your employees so that they get the best of what they really can give it to you. So here in directing, it is a continuous managerial process that goes on throughout the life of the organization. Where employees are there, directing should be there. Characteristics of directing. I'll tell you how easily you can actually understand this characteristics. The first one is, in directing we always go with initiatives and actions. That is, it will always go for initiating the action. Second is, directing is pervasive. That means universally accepted. Directing is all about continuous activity. The fourth one is descending order of hierarchy. Descending order of hierarchy in the sense, people whoever are in the top, they're gonna direct the subordinates. And next, human factor. Directing is all about what? Human factor. So the first one is initiates actions. Second is pervasive function. Third is continuous. Fourth is descending order. And the fifth one is human factors. Now the characteristics, if we go with it, the first one, as I told you, that is initiates actions. Now directing function is performed by the managers along with planning, staffing, organizing and controlling in order to discharge their duties in the organization. That is what the first one is. Second is pervasive functions. Now directing takes place at every level of the organization wherever there is a superior subordinate relationship. See, that's the reason here, the superior subordinate. When we have here a superior, you will have the subordinate. Superior will direct the subordinate. Directing exists as every manager provides guidance and inspiration to his subordinate. That's why it is always what? Pervasive function. Next one we have is what? Continuous activity. Please understand, till the organization is there, people are there. When people are there, superior subordinate relation is there. When both are there, that is what? It is continuous activity. Now it is a continuous function, has it continuous throughout the life of the organization, irrespective of the changes in the managers or employees. Whatever the techniques can come, whatever technology can come, but directing will be there. Next is descending order of hierarchy. Now here what it is, directing flows from a top level of management to the bottom level. That means every manager exercises this function on his immediate subordinate. Directing should happen. Human factor is the last characteristic, where since all employees are different and behave differently in different situations, it becomes important for the managers to tackle the situations appropriately. So that means what? Thus, directing is a significant function that gets the work done by the employees and increases the growth of the organization. That means, see, human is heterogeneous. Now, for each and every employee, the way the superior handles will definitely differ from one person to another person. That is, the human factor is a very, very important topic in directing. The way you are today, you are not the same tomorrow or the next day or the previous day. What exactly happens is you always get triggered. You always have these kind of stress. That is, it can be acute stress, episodic acute stress, or chronic stress. Now, directing will actually impact the human factor. And only when you are really nice and you are passionate about your work, you start taking the orders from the superior. But when you are cranky, when you feel that mood swings is there, even the superior is telling something, but you are not able to understand, or you are not able to listen to it, or you don't want to listen to it. So that's why directing, the characteristics here we have is the human factor also. Next one is importance of directing. What are the importance of directing? The first one is the same way, whatever the characteristics you have said, that is initiate action, exactly the same. Next is integrates employees' effort. Now understand, initiate actions, now I have already covered what exactly initiate actions is. That is, it helps in initiating the action of people towards achieving organizational goal. The other function presides directing, like planning, organizing. It's the same kind of a thing. Whatever we have learned in the characteristics is the same in the importance. But here there is a twist, that is, it integrates employees' effort. That means directing ensures integration of employees' effort towards attainment of organizational goals. That means only when we work together through a proper director or through a proper manager, we actually integrate the work and get the organization goal done. In any organization, the job of subordinates are usually interrelated. It is what? Interrelated, and performance of each individual is affected by the performance of others. Next one we have is, it's a means of motivation. Directing is always a means of motivation. That means through motivation and effective leadership, directing helps the employees to realize their full potential. That means it facilitates change also. That is, to cope up with the change in the business environment, directing function guides initiatives and motivates employees in such a manner that helps them to accept the change willingly. Now understand, when we go with facilitate changes, when you are directing your people and they already know what exactly the uncertainty is, the risk is, now what happens is, without knowingly, they'll only get a kind of a zeal within themselves that they are able to adapt to the situation willingly, as well as they will get those things instantly. That is what the help which is done by the directing. If you have a very good manager, you will be prepared for each and every task properly. Next is balance in the organization. See here, directing helps in establishing cooperation. When you have cooperation and commitment among the people, thus it helps to bring stability and balance in the organization. That's a very, very important one. Okay. Next we have is supervision. Now what does the supervision means? Now supervision is a Latin word called super. That means from the above, and vision means to see. That is, to see from above. That is called supervision. The literal meaning of the term supervision is oversee or to inspect the work of other person. Thus, supervision refers to an act by which any person inspects or supervises the work of other people, that is, whether they are working properly or not. See here, supervision in the sense, whenever you join any company, if you are a fresher, you will always have a supervisor. See the word supervisor. Now he is the person who will check whether you are working or not, what time you came, what time you are leaving, what time you are having your food, what exactly the work you have done today, what was the pending files, everything he will actually take a look about it and he'll guide you. Now if you get a very good supervisor, now you will always grow in your career. But if you don't have a very good supervisor, definitely he gonna ruin your job. That is what the reality is. I'm telling you here, students. So essentials of effective supervision. What are the essential of supervision? The first one is issue of orders and instruction. You should always go with the workers require guidance of supervisor at every step. He clears their doubts and tells them the proper method of doing a job. That means a subordinate can give better performance when he knows the work he is supposed to do, what you are supposed to do, what you're not supposed to do, who will tell you, who will guide you, the supervisor. Next one is planning and organizing the work. Now, supervisor will plan and organize the work, that what exactly you are supposed to do. A superior acts as a planner and a guide for the subordinates. A schedule of work is prepared so has to ensure an even and steady flow of work. Now here what happens is the methodology is also given by him. The procedure is also told by him. The program is also set by him. So what is that you are supposed to do? You are supposed to go work for him. Next is, it is important at all level. When we go with supervisor, see here, when we go with the superior and the subordinate, the superior, though he gives the work, he should also supervise that what the subordinate is doing. So here we have the superior. Now we have the superior here, we have the subordinate here. Now the superior need to have this supervisor about the subordinate. Now supervision means overseeing and watching subordinates. The time devoted by the top management to the supervision is only 20%, whereas supervisor, that is a foreman or an overseer or superintendent or section officer, devotes about 80% of his time on supervision. That means what? See, the top level is there, right? We have the top level. The top level. Now they'll only go with 20%, they'll check what people are doing it. But you have a supervisor, now he will actually check 80%. That means what you people are doing. So that's why it is very, very important. Vital link between workers and management. Now supervisor will actually become a middleman for the employees, the laborers and the management. That means a supervisor is a representative. He's what? He's a representative of the management and a very important figure from the workers' point of view. He communicates, understand the word? He communicates the policy of the management to the workers. So this is what a very, very important one is. Next is motivating the subordinates. A supervisor should always motivate his employees. Now, a supervisor is a leader at a lowest rung of management ladder. He serves as a friend, philosopher and guide to workers. He inspires the teamwork and secures maximum cooperation from the employees. That means he should always motivate them, encourage them. He should go and he should check what are the difficulties which they are facing while doing a job. Feedback to workers. Now he is a person who will actually give a proper feedback to each and every worker, whether they are doing proper or not, whether they are on time or not, whether they are maintaining the standards or not. Proper assignment of work. Now a supervisor should never have that bias kind of a feeling. He should be always unbiased and give the work or allot the work to every employee equally. It can be like there should not be any inequality with gender or any partiality because he is from a community or a religion or a creed or a gender. No, there should not be any bias. So he should be a person who will go for proper assignment of work. Next one we have is communication. Now what is communication? See, when we go with communication, we should understand there is a person who will go for sender. That is, he'll send the message. There is one person who is called receiver. Now the sender, what he sends to the receiver need to understand in the same sense and then send the reply to him. That is called communication. You hope you got it. We have a sender. He will send a message to the receiver. Now understand, communication is simply the act of transferring information. See, the act of transferring information from one place or person or group to another. Now, every communication involves at least one sender, a message, and a recipient, that is recipient. This may sound simple, but communication is actually a very complex subject. The reason I'll tell you. One of my friend who was about to drown, he was just waving at us. We thought it is like he's saying hi or bye or something like that. Now what is it? It's a barrier to communication and we misrepresented it. But he was actually calling us for the help. I'm just joking here. This is what happens even in all the cases, right? And please understand that communication in the sense what the sender is sending, you are supposed to receive the same kind. That is what the thing is. And then you are supposed to reply to him. That is what is called the entire communication process. Okay. Now, importance of communication. The first importance of communication is the basis of coordination. Communication is there, coordination should be there. That means the manager explains to the employees the organizational goal, modes of their achievement, and also interpersonal relationship amongst them. So this provides coordination between various employees and the department. Next is fluent working. When you have proper communication, there is no hindrance. There is nothing which is like not being transparent. So when you go with communication, you have that bonding with you. That is, you will have a very good fluent working condition and the atmosphere. Now the manager coordinates the human and physical elements of an organization to run it smoothly and efficiently. This coordination is not possible without proper communication. So what are the importance? The first important is the basis of coordination. The second is fluent working. Third is the basis of decision making. Now, proper communication provides information to the manager that it is useful for decision making. No decision could be taken in the absence of information. So, a proper information should be given, only then you can actually go for any other work after. Now here the next one is increases managerial efficiency. Now what does this increases managerial efficiency means? The manager conveys the target and issues instructions. He will issue instructions and allocates the jobs to the subordinate. That means what? Here, through a proper communication, we can attain all these things. That is, the work can be done smoothly. The management will never have any problem with any of his employees. The superior will actually communicate with the subordinate and the subordinate with the superior, vice versa. Now here what happens is all these aspects involves communication. Thus communication is essential for the quick and effective performance of the managers and the entire organization. That's the importance of communication. Next one we have is it increases cooperation and organization peace, and we have boost morale of the employee. Now understand here, when we go with the two-way communication, the two-way communication process promotes cooperation and mutual understanding amongst the workers and also between them and the management. And how exactly it will boost the morale? When we go with the good communication helps the workers to adjust to the physical and social aspect of work. It also improves good human relation in the industry. That means what? When you are talking to each other, that is, you have a team and you are talking to them, and whenever you go for any kind of a conversation or the communication will always be very, very important. There are n number of people who are stereotypical kind of a thing. That is, they maintain that kind of a dignity that superior should never talk to the subordinate. But here in the 21st century, we are supposed to break all those stereotypical things, and then we are supposed to come up and we are supposed to communicate with each other so that each and everything is so transparent, and it is always what it helps to run the management smoothly, as well as it will help to understand the situation and the job very easily, so that we can achieve the organization goal efficiently and effectively. Next one we need to understand is types of communication. What are the types of communication we have? When we go with types of communication, please understand there are n number of types of communication. Namely, we have like communication in organization may be classified as downward, upward, horizontal communication. They may be oral or written. They may also be classified as verbal and non-verbal. Verbal communication includes oral and written communication. Non-verbal communication refers to body language or the use of gesture and body movements. Now say simply you will be like your parents will ask, did you had your food? You'll just nod your head. Again, that is also a communication. When your faculty is asking you something, right? Now when you go for a body gesture, that is also a communication. Now, types of communication. What are the types of communication we have? The first one is downward communication. See, downward communication is from here, top to bottom. That is called downward communication, where the superior will actually communicate with the subordinate. That is called downward communication. We have upward communication. It's a vice versa. What exactly it is? That is the superior is there, and we have subordinate. Now the subordinate will communicate with the superior. That is called upward communication. So we have two types. One is downward communication, that is top to bottom. What we have, that is top to bottom. When we go with that, and one more is there, from lower level it goes to the upward. That is called upward communication. That is subordinate will be telling to the superior that whatever he has given the task, he has done it. That is called upward communication. Next one we have is horizontal communication. The word itself says what? Horizontal communication. That means we have the same levels of management people. They'll start communicating. That is the same grade people are there. They'll start communicating. That is equal hierarchical grade. We call that as, say example, we have here A. Here we have B. Same say equal hierarchical among each other. Now what happens is they'll start communicating. Marketing head will talk to the HR head. This is called horizontal communication. Verbal communication. Now you already know what a verbal communication is. This includes both oral and written communication. Next one we have is the fifth one, non-verbal communication. The gestures whichever you go with without uttering a word, that is called non-verbal communication. Say the minute somebody comes and you greet, you just smile, even that is a communication. You show that anger face, that is also a communication. You are so sad about it, you are not, you don't want to answer anything, but your gesture will only tell. That is called non-verbal communication. And one more is diagonal communication. Now understand the diagonal communication here you have. This is what the diagonal communication is all about in the organization. That is, diagonal communication refers to communication that crosses both level and functions or departments, where staff members from different departments, irrespective of their reporting relationships, interact with one another within the organization. See, we have like here we have marketing, we have HR. When marketing person will talk to the HR person horizontally, that is called horizontal. Now here when this HR person will talk to the marketing person diagonally, now we call that as a diagonal communication. So these are the types of communication. Next type of communication we have is the seventh one, that is formal communication, and informal communication is the eighth one. Now when we go with formal communication, what happens is how you are supposed to behave in an organization, you are supposed to go with it. Formal communication is actually derived from the military concept, where you are supposed to maintain the dignity and then you are supposed to go for the communication. But informal communication, in the sense, it's like a grapevine communication. What is it? Grapevine. I'll tell you what exactly a formal communication is. Now formal organization shapes the communication process in such a way that it facilitates the behavior of organizational members. Formal organization structure establish relation between the various organization member and describes the formal line, that is authority, power, responsibility and accountability. But when it comes to informal communication, what happens here is informal communication supplements, that is formal communication, and this relationship is referred to as grapevine. The question can come, what is a grapevine communication? You are supposed to explain. It has no structure. That is, whoever actually they can go for it. Informal, grapevine communication, rumors, all those are informal communication. Next is barriers to communication. What are the barriers of communication? Now, barriers means what? There is a smooth flow in communication is happening, but because of a barrier, now we will not have a communication properly. Now, whatever the factors which will make the communication not to go with a proper one, that is called the barriers. Now, communication barriers may prevent communication or carry incorrect meaning, due to which misunderstanding may be created. Therefore, it is essential for a manager to identify such barriers and take appropriate measures to overcome them. The barriers of communication in organizations can be broadly grouped as follows. Now, I've given you few of the barriers. The first one here is Semitic barrier. What is it? Semitic barriers. Now, in Semitic barriers, what all are there? These are concerned with the problems and obstructions in the process of encoding and decoding of messages into words or impressions. Normally, such barriers result due to use of wrong words, faulty translation, different interpretation, etc. That is called as Semitic barriers. Second one is psychological barriers. Psychological barriers is all about your mental ability. That is, emotional or psychological factor also act as a barrier to communication. Say you are very sad and somebody is selling something, nothing will go to your head. That is called your psychological barrier. The state of mind of both sender and receiver of communication reflect in effective communication. That is, a worried person cannot communicate properly, and an angry recipient cannot understand the message properly. This is due to psychological barrier. And the last one here is organizational barrier. Now, how the organization, say the organization is very big, the company is very big, from one end to another end somebody is actually telling something, but what happens is, because of the distance also there is a problem. So the factor relating to organization structure, rules and regulations, authority relationship, etc. may sometimes act as barrier to effective communication. In any organization with a highly centralized pattern, people may not encourage to have free communication. Also, rigid rules and regulations and cumbersome procedures may also become a hurdle to communication. So these are the communication barriers which you people have learned. And the last one we have is personal barrier. Now, personal barriers, what exactly the personal barrier is? Now, the personal factor of both sender and receiver may act as a barrier of effective communication. That is, if a superior thinks that a particular communication may adversely affect his authority, he may suppress such communication. Again, there is a barrier of communication. It depends on person to person, right? Now, I've completed the directing, supervision. Then we went with the importance of directing, importance of supervision. Then we came to communication. We also learned about types of communication. After the types of communication, I told you about the importance of communication. And lastly, we went with the barriers of communication. Any doubt regarding this session, please do call us. We are always there to help you. Thank you so much. I'll see you when I see you.